It is overtime here again at Old Favorite Friday, and I have such an interesting beer for you guys today. This is a beer from a brewery called Kiuchi out of Japan. They originally were a sake brewery that got into beer in 1996, and this is the Hitachino Red Rice Ale. A little background on my history on this beer. We used to do a beer bottle share every Monday night at a place called Coffee District in Delray Beach. And we would invite pretty much like our own little group, but then anyone that was like a regular there, we'd invite them to come and hang out and drink some great beers with us. And it was like inevitable that they would go to Total Wine, some of the new people to the group, and they'd pick this beer up. And they would bring it to our bottle share. Now, a lot of my friends would kind of scoff at that because they were looking for like crazy imperial styles with tons of adjunct ingredients or insanely bitter West Coast IPAs. This was in the 2005, 2000 to 2010 time period. But I used to rejoice because this is such a good beer. It's so interesting and so unique. We so rarely get a beer that is as unique as this. When I say it's a red rice ale, it means that 25% of the grist or the grain was made up by red rice. This really aromatic, flavorful malt ingredient. We're used to like brewing with like rice in the United States that is just providing sugar and no flavor. That's not the case with this. You see this brilliant color here that's coming from the red rice. And to make it even more complex, they brew this with two different yeast strains because a different yeast strain has to ferment the sugars from the rice, and they use a Belgian strain. They actually call this a Belgian pale ale on some websites when you see this beer. And you can see that as it picks up some of the Belgian yeast character, but it's not overwhelming. I think some of the fruity esters, maybe some of like the stone fruit or the strawberry that comes off of this might be from the yeast, but it also could be coming from the rice itself, which is such an interesting component that you do not see anywhere else. This is the only beer I've really ever had from this brewery, or maybe one other, maybe they do a Saison. It's been a long time, so excuse me for that. But this is the beer that I see the most often, let's say. And it really is one that I forget how much I like it until I pick the beer up, revisit it, and try it again. Subtle floral hoppy aromas, crisp and refreshing, this really deep, interesting malt character, as I said, coming from that red rice. A little bit of a crackery mouth or flavor. The mouthfeel, like I said, is crisp. It's 7% alcohol. It does not drink like a 7% beer. It drinks like a much lower ABV beer. And like I said, I love the complexity of aroma. This is one of those beers that and some people would say or I would say, I should say, that you should let this warm up a little bit. I think you're going to get more of that malt expression as this beer warms up a little bit. You don't want to get it warm, but I think you're going to get more of those esters and those fruity flavors as the beer warms up. And it's another one of those beers that you go into, and every single time you go back into the glass, you're smelling something different, you're tasting something different. The floral notes start to come out. Yeah, that strawberry is there. That's really in the kind of the background. The strawberry is a really delicate flavor to get inside beer and can usually be dominated when it's there by other things, but because this beer is so well balanced, you get these subtle little nuances in the beer every single time you go into it. It's really a brilliant beer that, like I said, I used to love when it was brought out. And I hope that you guys watching this have access to a beer like this because of how unique it is. And if you have kind of either, got into it years ago and haven't picked it up in a while, this is what Old Favorite Friday is for. Remind you guys of how great these beers are. This beer's been around since the year 2000. So it's a 25, 26-year-old beer that is still as good today as it ever has been. And if you're lucky enough that you can pick it up in your local store, go revisit it and enjoy. Food pairing for this. I was thinking of like a citrus salmon. There's some subtle fruity notes in salmon that I think that the strawberry and these subtle berry fruits are really going to bring out inside that. I would do a little bit of a lemon citrus salmon, so you have a little bit of zip of acidity in there that's really not there inside the beer as well. But it's really going to amplify like those floral components of the both the yeast character and the hops that are put in here. And it's going to cut the fats of the fish. A fatty fish like salmon needs a beer with a little bit of body to cut that. This is not a light body beer, it's more medium body, so I think it'll do a good job in that vein. I am so happy to always talk about some. We talk about beers and we do 100 Imperial Stouts, we do 1,000 Pilsners, and those beers are great. But getting a chance to talk about something that's so unique really is refreshing for me. I hope it's refreshing for you. Thank you guys very much for joining me as always. Please poke around the channel, like, subscribe, see me talking about incredible beers just like this one, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.